so I'm here with Erica LeMarr, a successful realtor in Las Vegas who is obsessed with personal development, and she's going to tell us how personal development changed her life. Erica.
Oh my gosh, Oscar, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I'm so glad to have you on. We've been developing our relationship through you coming here, and so I'm just super excited to really jam with you on like a content session.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure.
So tell us about your story. So where did you get started? How did you get your start in maybe life? So you were born, and then what happened?
Yes, so being born is part of it. So I was born in Okinawa. I was born in Misawa, Japan.
Oh, no way. My wife is Japanese.
Oh, yes. Oh,
she
my
was
gosh,
born
your wife is
in
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
well,
no,
she
she's
was.
beautiful.
It has nothing to do with me.
So I was born in Misawa, Japan. My biological dad was in the Air Force. And so, a few things happened between him and my mom, and so they ended up getting divorced, and then my mom ended up marrying a guy in the Navy. He was a Seabees, so we ended up doing a lot of traveling all over the world. I actually came to Las Vegas from Okinawa, Japan.
Wow.
And once I came to Las Vegas in 2001, I decided to grow roots and just kind of figure it out from there.
No way. So you were in Japan all the way until, well, I guess all over the world,
Yeah.
and then you settled in Vegas?
I decided to settle in Las Vegas because being a military brat, you really don't have any roots to grow off of. So I was like, this is going to be the place that I want to stay. But, I really found my passion for self-development and sales when I was at the age of 9. So in Okinawa, I decided that, hey, I really want to make more money, but I was very limited on how much money I could make in chore money because it was me and my 3 younger sisters, and I had to really help my mom a lot around the house. So I was, semi helping her raise my sisters. And she was kind of tapped out on how much money she can give me. And she's like, well, Erica, if you want to go out and make more money, it sounds like you need to do something on your own. I was like, well, what could I do? And she's like, well, this is where you need to get creative. So I sat in my room for a few hours and I was like, what problem could I solve for people where they're going to pay me? And so I had a dog at the time named Jake, and I used to always take him for walks. And I was like, well, I have a dog, and I know a lot of other people here have dogs, and they don't walk them. I'm going to start a dog walking business. So I was just turning 10 years old, and I went and I started a dog walking business. So I went and door knocked on about 25 doors.
Let's go.
And I got 10 clients that day.
That's incredible.
Yes, and so I walked their dogs for 2 years for $5 a week.
Dude.
And I saved up a ton of money because I was very consistent. And then, I just saw my little piggy bank grow, and then I would really, if you ask me what did I buy, I was a total nerd. I would just buy Pokemon cards.
Dude, that's what you bought when you were a kid. I had like the biggest stack of Pokemon cards.
Oh, it was the thing to do.
Well, and you were in Japan, so that was like straight from the source, right? So
yes, yeah. They were all in Japanese. They're in mint condition.
Do you speak Japanese?
I used to.
No way.
Yeah, I used to speak a little bit of Japanese, but it's true if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, I'm still learning it, and my wife speaks a little bit, but Japan is incredible. I love it there.
It's beautiful.
She's like still convincing me to sell like everything we have and just get a farm out there.
Their lifestyle is very clean.
It's a great lifestyle. I think I keep telling her like I still have too much young man's ambition right now. I feel like I would be very resentful if we were just like, all right, let's cash out all our assets and just go, like, So I was like, give me like 10, 15 years maybe. That's still pretty young to like, go out there. But anyway, so you're in Japan. You started killing it with door-to-door. I love door-to-door. I think it's like the rawest form of generating leads. And so you got some money, and then what happened after that? You're like, all right, I know this works. I know I could do entrepreneurship. You're 10 years old. What happened with the rest of life?
So I did that for a couple of years, and then when I turned 13, my dad retired from the Navy. And so we ended up making our way over here to Las Vegas. And so in 2021, I was depressed.
2001?
2001. I was a little bit, sad because I was like, well, I don't have my dog walking business anymore. What am I going to do with my time?
So in 2001, you were 11 or 10?
In 2001, I was 13.
Oh, 13. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I should have said that. So I think what I decided to do, I started thinking about my life and where I wanted it to go. And so I heard about Tony Robbins, and so I got a little bit into, I think my grandfather.
At 13?
Yeah, my grandfather, I think he had a cassette, and I started listening to it, and I was like, well, this is really interesting. So, fast forward, I'm thinking about my life over the next 3 to 4 years. And finally, when I get into high school, I decided, I was like, I think I want to be in business. So at this current time, I was in this weird like goth stage, like us, like everybody goes
Like,
through.
yeah, see, well, that was like the Fallout Boy days and, Hawthorne Heights.
Yeah. And so so as I was exiting that weird phase that we all happen to go through, one day I went into my closet and I looked at all my attire and I was like, I don't necessarily think that this is me anymore. So I took the money that I saved from having my dog walking business in Japan and I went to Macy's and I bought everything in business attire. I would go to school in blazers and button-up shirts, and I went to school in slacks. And it actually looked like I was a student aide. And I dressed that way every single day. People didn't really get it, but I was like, I want to dress as the role that I want, not the role that I am.
Yeah.
So a lot of it started in high school. And then, I guess fast forward, life got a little bit tough for me after high school. I had a big identity crisis moment. And so obviously, I fell off the bridge for a while, and then I met my husband, who was, of course, my knight in shining armor, who got me back on track, and then I just catapulted into personal development and trying to figure out who I am as a person. Once I found that out, I decided that I needed to be that voice for the people who needed to hear it from the person who's already been there. I think it's really hard to learn from somebody who has life so easy, hasn't already gone through the trials and tribulations. So now I can speak to the people that are here and want to be here because I've created that map. So I am their guide. So because I've gone through the peaks and valleys already, I can show them exactly what to do. So I guess that's kind of my origin of the personal development story.
That's incredible. I wish I would have got to self-development at the age that you kind of got into it. I didn't start reading or really taking it serious until you're only 2 years older than me, so that we're basically the same age. After high school, I didn't do anything with my life. I was in Vegas, so I wasted my life until about, I guess it's all part of the story, right? It's all part of the story. So I actually, when I was 23, was when I first got the camera and kind of started rolling with it. Even though I was just not developing my life, I started playing with the camera, and that's part of what got me to where I'm at. So it's you can't take it.
No, you really
for
can't.
granted.
It's part of your story, and it can't be any other way because everything's already pre-written.
Yeah. So after high school, you had some challenging times. How long was it until you met your husband?
So I met my husband in 2000. When did we meet? I met him in 2009.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't really take him that serious because he was
most wives do.
He was a really handsome military guy, and I was like, I know where this is going. You're not going to get me.
I'm not traveling again.
I'm not. Well, and so we rekindled our relationship because we were friends, and then, of course, we were buddy for a while, and then we got really serious and decided to just out of nowhere date for 2 weeks and then just get married.
No way.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we went to a club, and then the very next morning we were still kind of drunk drinking mimosas. And then I said, if we're still dating a year from now, we should just get married. And he's like, let's get married now. And I'm like, okay. And so we just go do it. And I think marriage is one of the fastest ways to get better quickly because you are living with a critic.
Yeah.
You're living with somebody telling you your downfalls.
Yeah.
And of course, if people like you and I, we don't want to be known for our shortcomings.
Yeah.
So we want to fix that.
Yeah. Well, so right now, one of the books I'm actually listening to, because Robert Greene's books are just so dense. So I listen to him when I'm driving, and it's The Law of Human Nature. And it talks about it's literally an optical illusion that humans have that we can't see our own faults, but we could see everybody else's faults. So I tell my wife, it's because you're saying, you see everyone's, or your husband and your wife are literally pointing out each other's things, but we're a mirror. So we're they're showing us things we're not seeing, and we're telling them things they're not seeing. And that's why marriage, I think, is so important, is because you commit to that, and then you guys are making each other better. Even though, like, obviously it's uncomfortable, right? My wife, I love her. You met Judy. She keeps me sharp. I would not be anywhere remotely where I'm at without her, because before I met her, I was like, I always thought I was just like scamming people with the camera. I was like, you mean you'll pay me money and I'll just push record? Like, this is, yeah, all day, like, and when I met her, she freaking like legitimized the organization, like got me on track and really helped us grow the whole business, which I would have never done. And so I tell her that it's uncomfortable, obviously, when she's telling me something. I'm like, let me breathe, woman. But then I go back and think about it. And the way I do it, like deal with it personally is, and this sounds really silly, but I'm like, she might be wrong, but what if she wasn't? And that allows me to like take the like wall down and internalize what she's saying to me. And then I'm like, I think it makes sense. I think she's right.
Well, it is written in Genesis that the woman is the helper of man.
Yeah. What's funny is in the Torah, so that's another book I read very briefly, like in the time when my daughter gets out of the bath till she goes to bed, which is like 20 minutes. That's when I read the Torah. And so I'm in Genesis, and my wife was like, have you learned anything? And I was like, well, I think God said that, the Adam and Eve story. I was like, I think God said that women make bad decisions, so their husband must rule over them. And she was like, can't believe you. And I was like, it says in the book. It's been all of history. It says it. And that was funny. And she was like, I don't think that's what it meant. I was like, well, it also says that we as humans shall toil for our food forever. So that's why I have to go to work.
Well, yes. But, it's not really work if you love what you do.
That's true. I mean, yeah, that's true. I think that I feel tired and like kind of sometimes in the days, like, you're... And I don't know, I imagine you're a high performer yourself, and like, you're giving it all you can all day long. And sometimes when I get to the end of the day, I ask myself, and maybe this is a personal thing because I'm not like super clear on the why, is like, why is that really worth it? I could just be chilling. I could be spending more time with my family. I could be doing all this stuff. Instead, I'm pouring into a lot of other people. But again, it might be part of the calling. It might be part of the mission. And I think this book I read, The Hard Times Create Strong Men, it says like that the calling is more important. And when you're in your calling, you're like attractive, you're magnetic. And if you give up the calling to please any other people, then you lose that magnetism, even if you have to sacrifice to be in the calling.
Have you ever heard of the hero's journey?
Yes. The Tony Robbins like seminar thing. I watched the free one. And then you went to the next one.
I did. So I want to say a couple things to address what you're saying is nobody is more rewarded than the servant. Because when you serve others, you have, not only do you learn, but you are fulfilled. And we are put on earth, in my opinion, to please God and serve people. But if you have these people who live very very shallow lives where they just serve themselves. And I'm sure that we were all at that stage. There was no happiness in serving yourself. There's a lot of happiness in serving others and giving back.
Yeah.
So the calling that you're experiencing, have you ever heard of the call of the contribution?
I don't think so.
So the calling that you receive it's an idea from God. And I think that God will put little ideas in people's head to see who is going to act on it. So God gives Oscar an idea and says, let's see how good of a servant Oscar is. And that is called the call of the contribution. So you're on this hero's journey, you get this calling, and you say, okay, well, what would be the next step into doing that? As you go through your hero's journey, you find that the calling requires new limits for yourself. And so as you go down this path, these new limits create obstacles and challenges and adversity. Once you hit that stage, you go through what's called the refusal of the call. The refusal of the call is like when you say to yourself, I don't think I meant to do this. You can call it imposter syndrome. You can call it inexperience. I personally think it's us just saying, we don't know what this new limit is. But what defines people like you and I, the hero versus the non-hero, is who is going to move past the refusal. And you have two choices. You can either move forward in faith, or you can move back in doubt.
Mm.
Faith and doubt are two forms of belief, but they're just in polar opposite directions.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine what would happen if Tony Robbins never moved past the refusal?
Yeah.
Or, love him or not, Elon Musk
Mm-hmm.
never moved past the refusal?
Yeah.
What would happen to other people who needed their voices?
Yeah. It's a huge impact. Those two people have made. Tony Robbins is the first like self-development person I ever like got into too. No, you're right. It's incredible. So you just have to be brave. Like I just want to touch on what you said, like faith and fear, which is, or whatever. It's the same, almost energy. It's just what you it's like an imagination. It's a thought. It's a belief, and whichever one you entertain will dictate like your outcome. And so I had a big realization, I think, last year of that. Like I used to have this huge fear of loss, like fear of losing everything I built up. And in 2023, I broke my wrist skateboarding with like our team. We had like an outing. We were playing pickleball, and then I was skateboarding, and I broke my wrist. And at that point, it was like the biggest like I've ever built up the organization. And so I broke my wrist. You know, I went through like the whole process, and throughout that time, I was just hyper obsessed with the fear of like, what if I lose it all? I'm going to lose it all. Like I'm not capable of doing this. And I obsessed over that thought for like 6 months. And what happened was it declined. Like our business dramatically, like I want to say 60% like dropped off. And that was a very challenging time for me at that time. But then, I 24 hit, and I just had to rebuild. And it was crazy. I did have to let go a lot of people off like our salary, but they still worked with me. They believed in the vision so much and in me and everything we had going on that they continued to push with me, and then we built it up together, and then we're able to distribute the fruit again. And so that was really cool. And what I learned from that was like, why do I have a fear of losing it all? Because if I lose it all, I just make it back. Like I have all the skills and I have all the power. And so I feel like 2024 was like the biggest lesson I learned was to release or eradicate fear. Like fear is there's nothing to fear but the fear itself, and so that was like, I don't know how I spun off on that, but
no, that's amazing. That is part of your journey.
Yeah.
Money is a terrible master, but it is a great servant.
Yeah.
Do you know how you know that money is your master?
How?
Is when it tells you no. When it tells you no, you can't do this, or no, you can't pay this person, or no, you can't do that thing. So money, and I learned this from Dr. Yervet, and money is an energy. When you're not afraid to lose it is when more will flow to you.
Yeah. And you have to use it and lose it. Like, so I run a lot of ads. So we have to lose it and test it to receive it. And so you have to use the power you have, which is money or the resources you have, in order to gain more. And so and that was a big lesson. Like if you hold on to something or hoard it, and you don't release it, then it will almost escape you. But if you release it and flow it, it comes back in abundance. It's crazy. And that's another thing I learned is giving. So my dad is retired in Mexico, and I take care of him financially. And my stepdad, we just found out, has a pretty bad heart complication. So we're thinking about him leaving work, and I'm gonna take over their mortgage and stuff. But that's it's like a test from God, if you want to call it that way. Like when the universe, places something before you, I feel like it's like God being like, you could do this. Are you going to answer the call and do it so that I could bless you with all this other stuff? Or are you going to have fear around it and not do it when you are capable of doing it? So that's a challenge that's not scary, but just having the responsibility of another mortgage is whoa, I know I could do it, but it's whoa, I guess I have to do it. It's God being you have the means, so do it.
You're being pushed to a whole different limit.
Yeah.
And you have to do that to know what the limit is.
Yeah.
But I want to touch on this money topic. Do you know why the Dead Sea is dead?
I don't.
It's because all the salt flows into one cavity and has nowhere to go. So a person can actually get into the Dead Sea and maybe be in there for about 10 to 15 minutes safely before they start to get dehydrated and have complications.
Wow.
But money is a lot like a river. So a river has a lot of life in it, like whether you consider like all these organisms and fish and everything, but it's free flowing. So if money goes into one account and just sits there, it does not go to work for you, and it becomes your master. But if you allow money to flow freely, where it flows to other people and entities and, helps employees feed their family, that's when you're going to start to see the abundance of what money really is meant for. And another thing I thought about too, we have to be careful about money because it's a man-made thing. It's not from God.
Yeah.
Blessings are from God. Callings are from God. Money is not.
Yeah. I read this book called How to Solve All Your Money Problems Forever, and it basically talks about that. It's like money's an energy. You have to flow it, glad giving. It's like a resource, an energy to flow. And if you don't flow it, like you're saying, it's like you're going to be stuck. You're always going to be in lack when really abundance is all there is. And so like if you know that, like, just like oxygen, it's like there is all there is. And if you're like an instrument of God or you're following your calling, then you will always have more because God's using you to do these things. It's like you're a channel and you're an outlet, and God gives more to like the outlet because it has more action or energy, right? Like, or the universe gives more to the person that has the most action because you're blessing more people, you're contributing to more people, you're creating more opportunity for more people, and those people need it to like survive, to eat, to pay their bills, to do whatever. And so that's why you have to answer the calling, like really just be committed to it no matter how scary it is. And I love Tony Robbins says, if I can't, then I must. So like if there's a situation where you feel like, I don't know if I can do that, then you just must do it. Like, see it through, go through that scary, because it's just a limiting belief really, so if you break through it, you're going to be better off on the other side.
Could you imagine if you never answered the call? And I promise we'll get into some personal development. But imagine if you never answered the call. You didn't become the person that you are today. There are people following you and watching you and waiting to see what you do so they can have faith that it's possible for them.
Yeah, that's incredible. I never even thought of it like that, but...
So if you can't, you must.
You can.
Because if you can't, a billion other people probably think they can't too.
Yeah.
And so they're waiting for you to be the example to show them it's possible. When you do that, you free them.
Let's go.
You give them the keys to their own prison.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's incredible.
So you have to be the person you were meant to be, and you must push forward that. You must push through that adversity for them. So that was the hardest part for me too. Like, I'm now showing up on social media, but I wasn't always that way. So before I got into real estate, I worked for a big cable company in 2014 or 15. So I was a stay-at-home mom for a little while, and then I decided, well, I want to do something. I want to make some money. And so I went to go work for this cable company, and I had no clue really about sales outside of door-to-door as a 10-year-old, like, saying, can I walk your dog?
Yeah.
This was a little bit different, right? So this was inbound sales. So I worked there for about 6 months, and I was like, I've got to do something about this whole commission thing because I want to make more money. So, we would have to start at 9 a.m. was our start time. I would actually go into the office at 3:30 a.m. to understand these scripts better so I can outperform everybody. My husband and my coworkers thought I was insane. And I was. So here I am understanding these scripts. I'm downloading like mentally what these coordinations are for these discounts and really what makes a good value proposition. So when I was put on when they released, so I guess fast forward a couple months, I'm really starting to get the hang of it. They released this new product where it's a home security system, and so nobody knows how to sell it. And so I'm like, well, what kind of value proposition could I make for this? So I go back home, write out my value proposition. I go back to the office, and I come in at 6 a.m. instead of 3:30 because it was too much. And I start to pitch it. So 3 months go by, and I have the highest amount of sales on the West Coast for this product. Then I bundle it, and then I figure out how do I sell it in mass units with like an overall bundle. So I did that for like another 2 months. I just honed in on the proper value proposition to to sell something.
Mm-hmm.
And I became one of the number one sales people in that unit on the Western Coast.
Let's go.
And then, you know, when they asked me to teach the floor on how to sell it, I was like, yes, absolutely, I'd love to. So I would basically tell them what I did, but then they didn't want me to be a part of the training. And I was like, well, I can see I'm not valued here.
What? They wanted you to teach the trainer how to sell
But they
it?
didn't want me to train. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm valued here. I'm out. So I quit my job. I have no idea what I'm going to do next. And I say, I'm going to get my real estate license. I quit. And so what I did was I cut off all possibilities.
Yeah.
I burned the boat. And then I moved forward saying, I'm going to get my real estate license. I failed that test like 4 times. And my husband was like, well, honey, our money is dwindling away. Please get that license. And so I finally get it. In my first year in real estate, I sell 28 homes.
Dude, that's incredible.
And then it just gets do more and more and bigger. But, you know, I got to a point where I was sacrificing my husband and my son and the time that it took with them. And so then I had to figure out how to scale. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. But the personal development really helped me figure out what direction I want to go in. So when I started to set up the value proposition, which I actually think people should receive, is the experience is about them, not me. When I showed the consumer that I really just wanted to serve them and I wanted them to have the best outcome and experience possible, my sales went through the roof. And I actually took a lot of business from a lot of agents in Las Vegas.
Let's go.
So I think it was just from creating a really strong value proposition and, again, being a servant to the people.
So how do you think self-development like helped you? And so before I go into that question, what do you consider like self-development? Like, how do you define it?
I define it as being better the next day than you were the day before.
Developing yourself.
Developing yourself, yeah.
And so how do you think doing that like transitioned into like your professional life? Because it's kind of like different, right? It's not like you're like forced to do self-development in a job or in a business or anything. That almost like you do that and then it carries over into your business. So how did that like happen for you?
Oh, man, ask that question again.
I don't even know how to ask. So how did self-development, I don't even know the question.
Yes, okay. So this is going to be very interesting. I had a really tough childhood because I was basically labeled as borderline mentally challenged.
No way.
I couldn't really read. I couldn't, I had learned very slowly. I had a learning disability, actually. So when you grow up and you hear people say, you know, you're not really going to go anywhere in life, even though I wanted to believe I could do something different, that becomes a child's like identity. So I found ways to learn the way I need to learn, and personal development helped me. When I finally heard that not everybody has to learn the same way, I was like, well, maybe I learn differently, and I actually do learn differently. So once I found out how my brain works, I started to articulate on a different level. I can read faster. I process quicker. So personal development, like, it really kind of saved my life.
It did.
Because I really thought I was going nowhere fast.
How did you change that belief? Because I know like a lot of people get stuck and they don't even like, they just keep that identity. Like, well, I'm stupid. I can't learn. I'm whatever. This is my life now. Like, you know, so how did you personally like break through that to be like, I can do something different?
I read this one quote and it just clicked. It says something in the form of this because it's a quote from a long time ago. The harmony of thought and reality is mended. What is it? How does it say again? It goes basically like the harmony of thought and reality is it's woven into the structure of the language. Basically what that means is your thought and what actually will happen starts with what you actually say to yourself. So I changed my internal dialogue to switch to I want to do this or I want to become this. And so, back then I didn't really know what it was, but that activates your reticular activating system. And so what your brain does is it goes to work to look for the things that you're actually thinking about. And then it shows you proof. And so as I would find more evidence that that would actually happen because I thought of it, I was like, whoa, well, what else can I do? And so then it just kind of catapulted me. I didn't have, my mom wasn't really into personal development. My stepdad really wasn't. So it was hard to stay on that path by myself. But, I finally got there. I didn't take personal development super duper serious until I was about 28 years old. And I didn't really actually break through an identity crisis until I hit 30.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds about right. That's the same with me. I don't think I started self-development until 29. Well, like 28, I didn't make any significant amount of money until 29. So it's similar. I think maybe it's just like the prefrontal cortex develops around that time. I don't know. So I feel like I cut you off. Did you have a thought that you were?
No, you didn't cut me off.
Well, now we're at a standstill. Okay, so you changed your identity, you believed you could do it, and then I know you have a lot of coaches. How did you get into the realm of being maybe I could handle accountability coaches or something to start to take that path?
My husband tells me I must like the abuse, and I think I do. So I wanted to buy my time back. I wanted to get there faster, and so there's no better way than to hire or find somebody who's already done it. So I have a fitness coach, and that's been great. I wake up at 3:45 in the morning, and I'm at the gym. I'm at the gym now by about 4:15.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, so I can finish up by 6. So I can go home and pack.
Dang, that's a long gym sesh.
Yeah. I do whatever my coach tells me to do plus 30 minutes of cardio, and then I go home and I make my son's lunch because I don't like him eating school lunch, and I take him to school. So I have to get up early to fill up my cup first.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought.
I don't know. Oh, coaches.
Coaches, yeah. So I have a fitness coach. I have a life coach who's been very eye-opening. She's been great because she will not let me run from myself, and she is my mirror. So she changes my thoughts, rewords it. She's quite literally reframed and rewired how my subconscious thinks.
Yeah, we just met her the other day, and as I was listening to her, her tonality, I got the same energy as Esther Hicks, when you listen to her, I was like, I think this is Esther.
She's great.
Yeah,
she's great. And you know what I like about her too is she's not an 18-year-old life coach. She's an actual life coach who has real experience.
Life experience.
Yeah. So when I was looking for a life coach, I saw these 21-year-old life coaches. I'm like, what could you possibly know about life?
Dude, your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. You have no idea.
It's not developed until 25.
Yeah, you can't even think straight. What are you to tell me about how to, maybe they got their stuff together. They could coach an 18-year-old.
Maybe. Maybe. And then I hired my business coach, who is actually Omar El-Khatori. He's the guy from Think Media.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that really just helps me break through all the content, social media stuff, because your message and your word can't be found if you can't be found.
Yeah.
So you got to make yourself more findable. And I was like, all right.
That's incredible.
Started doing that, and then things just happened. It really happened for me when I tapped into being a servant for the people.
And then kind of releasing your own self-interest in serving people. And then I think as a byproduct, right? It's obviously all your needs are met and beyond. So
beyond. Yeah. I'm blessed. Yeah. Beyond measure.
So service to others. That's the secret to power, really. I mean, that's what I read a lot of books about. All kinds of stuff. But my wife's like, why do you read these manipulation books? I'm like, they're not manipulation. It's human behavior. Influence is huge in getting your desired outcome. And it doesn't have to be in a manipulative way. It's you just want to influence people positively to change their life for the better, and if you could show them how to do it, you have to influence them to do it. You can't coerce somebody to change their life, so.
It's true. And you know what? If you don't show up, somebody else will.
Yeah.
And it might not be the right person.
Yeah. So, Mikey, what time is it? I just want to make sure. I know she's got it. 9:50.
Okay.
Oh, we're doing good time.
We're doing good.
Okay. So, Okay, so let's just get to the last quarter of it. So, what's next for you? What are you excited about? What's the next 5 years look like for
Oh
you?
my gosh, you're going to ask me my question I ask all my guests? I don't know.
No?
So I'm just failing forward every day.
Yeah.
So I think I want to teach women how to sell.
That's a great niche. I think that's an
Yeah.
incredible skill that women need, because in any form of business, I think that like you can't be successful until you learn like the sales part. My wife and I think we make a really great partnership because I do all the selling, like the front end, like energy, and she builds all like the infrastructure like that we need to capture and deliver. So, but when she tries to do her own projects, like the sales part is lacking, and she struggles with that. So I think that would be extremely advantageous for her
Yeah,
to
yeah.
learn.
Selling for women, sometimes it's harder. Only because,
Really?
yeah, it can be a little bit harder because, and I've noticed this as well whenever I interview men versus women, is women sometimes they go off track on what they're talking about, and men are usually pretty dialed in. So it's a storyline and communication problem. But here in like an alliteration form is what I would actually want to teach women. Certainty, competence, and confidence.
That's
When you are certain and you are competent about what you have to offer, you have nothing but confidence. Those three things, you can sell any product.
that is incredible. I love that acronym, CCC.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainty. I mean, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, wow. That just, or go ahead. Sorry. I
No,
feel like
no.
you're gonna have a thought.
So the reason it's in that order is it's an alliteration. So each word has the same letter, and then it's in a tricolon form because it's easy for people to remember. So if I tell women, hey, if I tell them something complicated, they're probably not going to remember it. But if it's easily rememberable, if they can easily remember the words that they have to stick with, then they'll be able to find success. Certain people, they usually get what they want because they have so much conviction. And when you are competent in the field and you have product and market knowledge, I mean, people are going to believe that, and you couple that with certainty, I mean, people are going to be like, yeah, that's the person I need to go to. That is the industry leader. And then you are very confident by default because you have basically everything you need in your tool belt. So those three things, I think, is what most women need. And once I can teach that to them and then obviously help them hone in on their product and market knowledge, it's a done deal. They can sell anything.
I always thought, like, because I learned my sales in door-to-door, like, solar, like, 2018. And I always thought it was easier for women because I always thought, like, women had more influence, at least in the door-to-door space. Like, people would hold the door open longer to, like, listen to what they have to say. So I don't know, but I guess I never, like, dove into, like, women's sales.
Maybe, but sales is still a pretty male-dominated industry.
It's very masculine and aggressive.
Yes.
Grr.
Yeah. So one thing that I would actually want to teach women in my program is the big difference between convincing and persuading. Convincing is a very strong masculine word. It's you trying to get the other person to do in which you desire. But when you persuade somebody, it's so much easier because you are showing them the way, you're basically showing them in which they already desire. So the easiest way to sell somebody, and I think you're actually doing people a disservice if you don't have something to sell them, because the offer that you have for them could actually change their life dramatically. And you give them what they want, but you have to know how to package it.
Yeah, there's a book called How to Split the Never Split the Difference. And Chris Voss, I love that book. It's like one of my favorite sales books. And it's not really a sales book, but like, yeah, I don't know what I was going to say regarding that book, but
what was in that book that you liked?
Everything. I use so many things like from that book in all of my sales. Every time I make a call, it's like, did I catch you at a bad time? And then they're like, say no. So you want people to agree in the affirmative with no. So did this sound like a terrible idea for you? Like, I don't know. Those are my two biggest things. Like,
Yeah.
agree with an affirmative for no. What else? And just like be relentless. Like, one of the biggest things was like, he's in the beginning, he says, like, you have to take, like, when an FBI negotiation situation, you have to take everything from them, give them nothing, and make them feel good about it. And so, like, in my business, it's like, you know, I just want to make them feel good about taking action with us. But like, it makes me feel like way more, less pressure. Like, I don't have to take everything from them. I'm giving them something so valuable, and they're gonna feel good about it. And so, using his techniques to like get them there was my biggest takeaway.
Wow.
What about you? Did you? What do you?
No, so I haven't read that book, but I've heard it's really great.
It's incredible. I love it.
You know, this next guest that I actually want to bring on, he's actually a trial attorney for a really big company that defends pharmaceutical companies.
No way.
You want to talk about knowing sales? Trial attorney is the person to talk to.
What about, I mean, pharmaceutical companies?
Yeah. So he defends them.
That's wild.
But you know, when I was listening to him and his story, because I'm helping him and his wife buy a home here, because they're moving out. They live like 2 miles away from the Palisades. They're like, we are getting out of Dodge.
We're out of here.
We're done. So moved out here, upgraded their life big time, which is great. And I was asking him about, you know, what trial is like and how you convince the jury. And as he was explaining all this to me, I'm like, man, this is like the ultimate sales guy. Because you got to show and convince the attorney based on the evidence that you have, and then you have to tell them a story.
Yeah.
So you're literally shifting their belief.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest forms of sales is belief shifts.
Yeah, and that's like the purest like form, because in the Chris Voss book it says you don't want them to agree with you. You want them to come to the conclusion themselves. And that's what like changing the belief successfully is. And if you get them, they're like, because they feel like they sold themselves. You didn't sell them. You just helped them uncover their own belief. So to take action with you.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Well, Erica, I know you got to get out of here soon. So we could do this all day forever, but where can the people find you?
People can find me on my YouTube channel, which is Erica LeMarr, and then you can also find me on Instagram, which is also Erica LeMarr. And of course, I do have my phone number there as well, so if you guys ever want to buy a home here in Las Vegas, I'm your girl. Just give me a call.
Let's go. Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Let's go. Wow.